All right, guys, let's take a look at angles and triangles. I think you're going to find this to be pretty simple because there's some basic things you have to memorize about angles, and they also fit that same rule for triangles. So take a look at what we know about angles so far. Okay, first off, acute angles. Those are small angles, less than 90 degrees. So I went ahead and made a 90-degree angle right here with these two rays. And anytime I make this smaller, see it's just a little bit tipped in, that's an acute angle. And even more tipped in, acute. These are all acute angles. All the way until this teeny tiny right there, that's so small, it's like a 1-degree angle. So anything in this range is an acute angle. Once they fall on top of each other, it's no longer an angle. And once it is perfectly perpendicular or straight up and down and side to side, that makes it a right angle. So an acute angle is any angle that measures 1 degree all the way up to 89 degrees. And we're going to measure on a protractor, and I'll be showing you that a little bit later. But anything that measures 1 degree, which is that teeny tiny little angle when the ray was right here, all the way up to 89, just before it reaches 90, way up here. So that measures that many degrees. Those are acute angles. And I remember that by thinking, oh, they're acute. They're little cute angles. So they're the smaller angles. Right angle is probably the easiest one to identify because it only has one measurement, and that's a 90-degree angle. And you'll see, with my drawings at least, and you'll see it in a lot of geometry work here, they always try to put a little square in the corner to show you that it's meant to be a right angle. Sometimes my drawings aren't so great, and I might want it to be a right angle, but my drawing might be a little off, so I'll put a little square there to show you that I meant to make it perfectly perpendicular, and perpendicular means straight up and down, side to side, similar to when we did a compass, when we did maps, and we did north, south, east, and west. And these lines of the compass rose are perpendicular. So I would have drawn a little box in there to show you, hey, that's meant to be a right angle. And this one's a right angle, right angle, right angle. So those are a little bit easier to find, those right angles, because they only have one measurement, and it is always the corner of a square. Squares have 4 right angles, 1 in each corner. The next angle is an obtuse angle. And an obtuse angle is anything bigger than 90, which would be 91 degrees, all the way up to 179 degrees. So an obtuse angle, let's see, here's our right, just a smidge bigger, that's obtuse. Bigger, 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 still obtuse. It's obtuse until not quite straight. Once they're straight, it has a different name, and I'll show you that in just a minute. So anything bigger than 90 but less than the 180 is obtuse. I'm having arrow troubles here. Now if it's exactly 180 degrees, it's a straight angle, and that's when the lines go straight side to side. Straight angle or a line is what you can call it. So really those are the big ideas you have to have for angles. Acute, right, and obtuse. Then you apply those to what you know about triangles. Now tri means 3. So when you think triangle, it really just means a shape that has 3 angles. And you'll see all these shapes have 3 angles. But if it has 3 acute angles, and remember acute angles are any angles that are 1 degree all the way to 89 degree. So if they're small angles, it's called an acute triangle. If all 3 of them are small, acute. If any one angle is exactly 90 degrees, like this one is, then they name it a right triangle. Now sometimes kids get confused because it still has 2 acute angles, but it just has to have one angle that's 90 degrees, and it changes the name to a right triangle. If one angle is bigger than 90 degrees, like this one is right here, it's bigger than 90, it's called an obtuse triangle. Even though this is an acute angle and this is an acute angle, it just needs one big angle to change its name to obtuse triangle. And I'll remind you that an obtuse triangle has a measurement of 91. The angle would have a measurement of 91 all the way up to 170. In this case, it would have to be 178 to fit into a triangle. So any of these angles, I know these are acute, but because it has one, it's a right. And I know these are acute, but because it has a one obtuse, it's an obtuse triangle. Let's take a look at some of the questions. So they'll give you a shape like this, and sometimes it's hard for kids because it's not turned the way their eye wants to see it. So I do a lot of turning to my iPad on this one. Once I see this parallel to the bottom of my screen, it just happens to make it easier on my eyes. I can see that up and down would be right here for a perfect right angle. This one's smaller, so it's an acute angle. You might want to be doing some iPad turning on this one, but I would definitely choose acute. And again, feel free to turn it so this line is parallel with the bottom of your screen. It tends to make it easier on your eyes. But if I go straight up and down for a right angle, that would be right here. This one's a little bit bigger, and bigger than a right angle is called an obtuse angle. And this one, they make it so easy for you because they put that little square in the corner. You can turn it all you want, but that square is still there. See how now it's parallel with the bottom of my screen. That makes it easier on my eyes, but it goes straight up and down. That is definitely a right angle. So you can see some of these questions are going to go pretty quick. You're just identifying angles. Then you'll get into the next lesson where they actually try to have you apply that to a triangle. So what kind of triangle is this? Does it have three acute? So you have to look at all three. And you might have to do some turning. So to see this angle right here, it's smaller than a right angle. And a right angle would go straight up and down and straight side. So that is acute. And if it helps you, turn your iPad and look at it this way. Now this line is parallel to the bottom of my screen. I can look up and down. Boy, that's a lot smaller. See how that would go way in? That's definitely an acute angle. And the last one, I got to turn again. Parallel to the bottom of my screen, parallel to the bottom of my screen. Straight up and down would be here. That's smaller. That means all three angles are smaller than a right angle. All three angles are acute. So the name of this triangle is an acute triangle. Uh-oh, look at this guy. I wanted to look at his hat. What shape is triangle? Is this special little dunce cap that my buddy's wearing here. Woo, I remember that from Flywheelers. So just take a look at this triangle. You can turn the picture if that makes you happy. But here we go, an acute angle, and an acute angle, and a twisted up kid. So this one would be acute triangle because all three angles are less than 90 degrees. And I really like these questions when they give you the actual measurement of each angle. So then you got to think about what measurements make acute, right, and obtuse. Well, I know a right angle is exactly 90 degrees. And none of these are exactly 90 degrees. So this is not a right triangle. I'm down to acute or obtuse. Now 105 is bigger than right, which means it's an obtuse, because an obtuse is anything 91 degrees all the way to 179. That's an obtuse angle. Well, this number falls inside that range. It's bigger than 91 but smaller than 179. So that means this is an obtuse triangle. And now here they've got measurements again. All three of these measurements are less than 90, and any angle less than 90 is a acute angle, and that makes it an acute triangle. Good luck today with this, guys. Feel free to take a look back at this video. I'm going to add a paper that you can take a look back in Google Classroom on the different types of angles and the different types of triangles. Good luck.